Are we? Okay, now we
Yeah.
are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Proverbial Masterminds. I'm Dr. Sherry, and this is Erin Harrigan, and we are the masterminds. Not really. We're just, seeking God's wisdom. We're reading a verse a day in Proverbs and coming together once a week to talk about the last 7 or 8, as would happen to be the case this week.
That's right. So welcome back, friends. We are excited to be live with you. We know you missed us last week because we weren't live, but
We weren't.
we are live now. So please share with your friends.
Yes, please do.
Anyway, we're continuing in Proverbs 24, and there's these groupings of sayings. And what I love about our journey through Proverbs, Sherry, is he keeps repeating himself, but in different ways.
Yep.
And I think it is so necessary because sometimes we need to hear it in 15 different ways for it to sink in. So
Absolutely. What is the old sales terminology that you need 7 touches to say yes or something like that?
And I read recently that that's actually 12 now because
I was going to say,
attention span is so short.
Well, and noise.
There's
so much that gets to us that it takes more to remind us of the thing that we saw that we might need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. So.
All right. You want me to read today?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I'm going to read from the New King James Version.
Okay. I have that open in front of me.
Which is like this tiny Bible that I might have to retire at some point because it's very tiny.
It's so tiny.
All right.
What were they thinking?
Well, I've had this forever. So like the
I know, but
falling apart and
still, what were they thinking?
I don't know. I don't know. It's not for
So
people
little.
that are at the beginning stages of macular degeneration. So there's that. All right. We are in chapter 24. We are reading verses 15 through 22. All right. Do not lie in wait. I have to share a joke with you about this after we're done. I'll come back to it. Do not lie in wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not plunder his resting place, for a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls. I love this. This is like such good juxtaposition. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart be glad when he stumbles, lest the Lord see it and it displeases him and he turn away his wrath from him. Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the wicked, for there will be no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. My son, fear the Lord and the king. Do not associate with those given to change, for their calamity will rise suddenly, and who knows the ruin those two can bring. So when I was reading this back on whatever day it was that we read the verse for 15, in the other version that I read, it doesn't say, "Oh, wicked man." It just basically says, "Don't lie in wait to do something mean to the righteous." And I was like, okay, like, obvi, like, why would I lie in wait to do something to the righteous, right? But it goes without saying here that this repetition is good. It's a good reminder, like, am I lying in wait? Am I waiting for somebody to screw up?
Right.
We do that.
Yeah.
It's like we want to throw people under the bus and be like, ha, right? Like, and then we want to, that goes into verse 17, then we want to laugh at their calamity, right? But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start with 15 and 16? That's the first.
So I'm looking at the Passion. I read it in the New King James. But in the Passion, this is so good. It says, listen up, wicked ones, wicked, irreverent ones. Don't harass the lovers of God. That's right. And don't invade their resting place. But this is the piece. And I've talked to so many people who are in a place of suffering. I mean, right? Like hurricane notwithstanding, people who are just in various different sufferings. Maybe they're grieving the loss of a relationship or the actual loss of a loved one, or, how they're feeling in their body or their mind, etc. 16 in the Passion says, for the lovers of God may suffer adversity. Well, yeah, we'll suffer adversity, but here's our hope. and stumble 7 times, but they will continue to rise
Yep.
over and over.
Over
So
and over.
just if you're watching and you're in a place of suffering, just know that the Lord's intention is for you to rise over and over. Like we're
Mhm.
going to have suffering. We know this. But then the other thing that struck me is this last line of 16, the wicked shall fall by calamity. It's just even one calamity that they will fall.
Right. That's a good insight there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are easily, I call it like being taken out at the knees, you know, with stuff that really doesn't matter. And it's interesting when you have a relationship with the Lord and you're really seeking after him, when the big stuff happens, like the little stuff is like, one, it's kind of like not on your radar as important. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
it's like God's going to provide, or it doesn't matter who's president, or it doesn't matter. Like that kind of stuff doesn't shake the believer because the believer knows who the true king is.
Right.
But for people who rely on the wisdom of the world, when the world does something that disappoints, it does shake them. It
Absolutely.
does shake them. And
Yeah.
and that's when you hear people saying things like, oh, there are good people in the world, or there just aren't good people in the world anymore, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
well, scripture would tell us there is no good person
People. That's
in
right.
the world anymore.
Yes. At all. Right.
At all.
Since the apple.
Right. There's none of us that are good. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we have a different kind of hope.
Mm.
We have a different kind of hope when we are pursuing a relationship with the Lord. And when we stay plugged into that, I was just writing a blog post about the light and the dark and how, we're supposed to shine. We're not supposed to shine because we're amazing. We're supposed to shine to reflect Christ's redemption and love for us, right? Like what he did for us, we reflect that onto others. But the only place that that's of use is in darkness, right?
Oh, so
Yeah.
good.
Can't really shine. And I mean, like the stars, I learned this. The stars are shining right now.
All the time.
We just can't see them.
Right.
Because of the clouds.
Yeah.
But they're shining all the time. Well, God's love has the opportunity to shine all the time, but people aren't going to see it unless they're in darkness.
Oh, Sherry, that's so good.
Right? So when there is calamity in the world, when there are things that the wicked are concerned with, this is our opportunity. This is
That's right.
This is prime time battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is what we were designed for.
Right.
To go into that darkness, not to also fear it like the wicked. So I'll just share that.
That is so good. So good. Okay. And this whole passage, it reminds us, it reminds us that we are not to gloat, that we are, that while this first verse is really addressing the wicked, right?
Yeah.
That we too are not to sit and wait.
That's right.
For someone to fall. So my sister has this, and I know she's not alone. She has this really bad habit that when someone falls, like she cracks up, like she
like
can't,
when they physically trip and fall.
like when they physically trip and fall, like when all of our kids were little, if they would fall, she just would fall out in laughter, right? So, but it just reminds me of this, like we are not to be gloating when our enemies meet disaster. We're not to be quick to rejoice. But and then
you're in 17 and 18, right?
Right, exactly. And then the Lord knows your heart. He sees it. It's not like you went and he didn't see it, because he did. So I found myself in this situation the other day, that I'm just going to say, I was gloating.
Yeah.
That someone who thought they had something so great they weren't purposely seeking this situation at the detriment to someone else. But it's a person for whom everything just seems to work out.
Yeah.
Everyone takes care of, right?
Yeah.
And it was like the most minor little thing wrong. It would be like saying, oh, she got that new car, but look, she already has a crack in the windshield, right?
Right, right.
It's a moment like that. But the bad part is, God forgive me, I was with my kid. And I'm like, well, I mean,
I know.
they have this, but I mean, look at
Look
what
at
does
that.
and I'm
Right.
like, come on, God. Like, what are you
Right. No, it's true. Well, and that's a great example of how we can do that. You know, how many times has Solomon reminded us of where to look?
Oof.
How many times has he reminded us of where to look for our wisdom? Um, when we look at things through our human understanding, through that unrighteous understanding, right? So like, oh, wicked man, that's all of us in the flesh innately. We are wicked, fleshly, self-serving creatures who like to gloat and glory in someone else's demise, particularly in enemies or somebody who we
Right.
think needs to be brought down a notch.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right?
yes.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Girl.
but in that gloating, we are also demonstrating the very pride that we wish was broken in the other person.
I
Right?
mean, come on.
Come on. So, what I love about this is we're all guilty of this, number one. We're all guilty of this in our day-to-day lives. But if we also take that to bigger things, like
Yeah.
I listened to this podcast the other day. It's not the one I sent you, it's a different one, which that one was very transformative that I sent to you. But he said, you know, that, you know, we are, you know, eternal beings. And when you think about that as I look at you, Erin, you know, you are an eternal being. You're going to live forever in one place or the other.
Sure.
You're going to live forever. And so, how could I rejoice if I thought you might be living in a place absent of God?
Yes.
How could I possibly rejoice in that?
Right.
How could I possibly wish you to go to hell?
Yes.
How could I possibly wish that? How could I possibly get joy in somebody being broken when I've been broken? Like,
yes.
you know, so I think that there is
that is so good.
And even in injustices, you know, justice is meant to be delivered, yes, but not to be rejoiced upon. Right? So if somebody is getting a punishment for a crime or whatever, I mean, there's been a lot of instances like where people have cheered and been gleeful that somebody has fallen so far.
Right.
And
it's hard not to do that.
It is hard not to do that.
That's why we need the Lord's grace and mercy.
That's why we need his grace and mercy. And that's why we need this reminder, lest the Lord see our rejoicing in somebody else's folly and it displease him. And he turns away his wrath from the person who did wrong in the first place. And where does it end up?
That's right.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
But again, it's about, to me, all of these verses, because we go to the next one, 19 and 20, do not fret because of evil doers, nor be envious of the wicked, for there will be no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. Listen, the whole point of all of this is to keep our line of sight attached to what matters, and that's to the Lord.
That's right.
It's not this way. I mean, yes, we are to serve others. Yes, we're to be his light. But if we are focused here, that will come.
Yes. Yeah. That's so good.
That just made the cross. Like, if we're focused.
That's
here,
it. It's true. Right. No, no accident on that. No accident on that. So this last section, this last piece kind of, it was a little hard for me. In the Passion, it says, my child, stand in awe of Yahweh, give counsel to others. Okay. But don't mingle with those who are rebellious. For sudden destruction will fall upon them and their lives will be ruined in a moment. Who knows what retribution they will face? So when I was looking this up, those who are rebellious, the word used there is rebels. Okay. Revolutionaries.
Okay.
And then who knows the retribution that will come, right? And so what it made me think of is how in the name of justice or
Yeah.
in the name of our rights and our freedoms and our privileges and all the things, this is not like, this is right or left, wherever
Yep,
you
yep,
stand,
yep.
right? That we are so quick to lock arms
Yeah.
with the rebels, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
And so I stopped short of saying, every leader, whether in the government or what have you. I mean, ultimately, God can change the hearts of kings. We know this,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And that, yes, the Lord is our ultimate sovereign king.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
we cannot use that relationship
Mhm,
to justify
mhm.
the locking of arms
Mhm.
with the rebellious at either side.
Yeah.
And that's really challenging. And for me, I thought, ooh, how many times have I done that?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I consider myself middle of the road, but still,
Yeah.
Where does my passion lie? Like,
Right.
should my passion lie with the Lord?
Yeah.
And if it is lying with the Lord, then we can do all these other things where we're not gloating and we're
Yep.
not waiting for someone to fall. Right. But friends, we live in a fallen world. That's
Yep.
not an excuse. It's just a fact.
Mhm,
So you may be challenged by this.
mhm.
I am challenged by it. There are things in this word that I am challenged by.
Yeah.
And lest someone say that you cannot be a Christian unless you believe every word, because there are challenges here for us to work through.
Absolutely.
If you have accepted Jesus as your savior,
Yeah.
you are Christian.
Yeah.
And it's okay that there are things where you're like, Lord, I'm struggling there.
Yeah.
He already knows that. But
Yeah.
he loves us and forgives us anyway. So this just challenged me to think about
Mhm.
where have I stepped forward? And I think there's a very fine line between standing your ground
Mhm.
and like standing up for justice or what have you, and being, belonging to the Lord only. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've kind of lived in this apolitical world for
Yeah.
most of my adult life.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
I follow the rules. I abide by the law,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't carouse with the rebels.
Right.
But also, I know who I answer to ultimately.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
to the world, that might seem like I don't care. Might
Mm,
seem like apathy. But
mm,
I'm not ruled by that system. My heart isn't ruled by a political system.
That's right.
My decisions aren't ruled by what's legal and what's not. My decisions are dictated from the Lord, right?
Amen.
And I do believe, however, Aaron, and I don't think that this is what's referring to, but believers will suffer under the law. The
Yeah.
scripture is very clear about this, right? There are places where it is illegal to gather in the name of Christ.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they are not rebels. They are not rebels against God.
True.
They are rebels for God,
Yes.
meeting under that, following the direction of their Father. And sometimes that will cost us in the world's directive system, right? So
Right.
there is that piece of it. I mean, to me, this ultimately goes back to, look, don't follow the Lord.
Mm,
Don't stir up trouble
right.
unless you're called upon to deny the Lord.
That's right.
If you're called upon to deny the Lord, then you don't do that,
No.
right? But I don't think that's what a lot of these kind of
True.
organized things are about.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah. So good.
so next week, Aaron, we're going to read 23 through 29.
Yes. Correct.
And then we'll come back together on the 7th to talk about it.
We will.
Do you
So
have any other thoughts about what we read this week?
No, I had all my notes ready to go.
Yeah.
I am Yeah, and we're gonna finish like that verse 29. It's a strong one.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna finish feisty next week, friends.
We are gonna finish feisty.
So join us next week. We're going to be continuing in chapter 24 of Proverbs. Tell us again. I just closed it. Here
Oh,
we go.
that's okay.
23 through 29.
Mhm.
And we can't wait to see you then.